Appreciate your time, Frank. This gentleman has done wonders for sim racing, the real world racers that come into sim racing or go back and forth. Frank's responsible to get some guys out on track. So without further ado, Mr. Frank Swartz, Grass Paddock Motorsports, tell us what you do.
What do we call this thing? Racing Line. I'm all out of sync. We got more people to deal with this week than what I'm used to. So thanks to my co-host, Jason, for joining us. Adam's back this week. And as you can see, we got a fourth sitting here. Megan Oversheet is already joining us to help us do some reviews and stuff. So thank you, Megan.
Let's go, Megan.
And help us. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, we're just getting ready to review the spec racers, and since we had an announcer in the waiting room, we thought we'd go ahead and bring you in.
Well, thank you very much.
There he is.
Hey, we got him.
Hey, Jason, we got you this time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
We won't talk about the other time.
Our special guest for the evening, Mr. Dave Ogburn, and for Dave to introduce you to these two knuckleheads, you got.
Great to see you, Thor. Welcome to the fourth chair and the podcast this week.
No, thank you so much for having me. It feels surreal, like finally being able to talk to you guys. You know, I've been in this league for like 2-3 years, and finally face to face.
Yes, of course, yes.
Jeff.
I'm on the spot now, Jeff. Oh. So, welcome, Mr. Jeff Jacobson. Again. Great to have you here. Thanks for taking some time out to join us. We get to some fun part. That's why you're here, Jerry. This is our guest segment after the reviews. So thanks for sitting through with us. And
that was fun.
And
thanks.
Yeah, it's some good racing. So, well, first of all, we gotta say thank you to Trenton for taking time to come join us. He's one of the hardest working guys I know, and you can look there in the shop behind him and get an idea of what he does. So, as everybody sees, we've got Darren Ganji, and if you didn't know already, he is Mr. Sim Motion, where you can get all your sim rigs and equipment and everything. He's also the sponsor of that league we were just talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Sean Ambrose, we go back forever, back to the very early beginning days of the Weekend Warriors, when it was broadcasted on another broadcast, GSRC, I don't mind saying it. Very good to us, and Sean was one of the producers, announcers, always great to talk with.
So, Mr. Edgar Sancinelli, Weekend Warrior, Frito Sport Racing. I don't know what all you do, but great to have you join us tonight, Edgar.
Yes.
I'm not saying shit. Oh, see, I literally. Whatever,
Yeah,
I give up.
there you go.
I know you've had a mute for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
it's for the views when Adam and you were there. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
jeez.
Oh, yeah.
3, 2, 1, stand by, Stevie.
You're hot.
And greetings all. Welcome to episode 27 of the Racing Line. My internet is kind of sucking tonight, so my visual is not there at all, and I know my audio is going to be a little rough, so my apologies in advance. I may not talk as much as I normally do, and let these two yin-yangs here cover for me a little bit. But as you see, we got our regular two guys, Adam and JG. Good to see you guys tonight.
Stevie.
Hey, Stevie. Sorry, guys. Jason told me to unmute myself, and I unmuted myself, and you heard me count Stevie in, so I apologize about that in advance. But here we are. Guys, screw it. We do it live mostly. So,
Yep.
But yeah, welcome in everybody, and welcome in Morgan, man. It's glad to finally put a face to the name, and I say that without trying to be the guy that everyone's like, oh, you don't know who Morgan is? I did not know who Morgan was until Jason and I were watching the Daytona 24, and we watched the Roar or the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and we were watching that before the D24 kicked off, and I was like, wait a minute. And Jason goes, is that? I was like, I know that name. Jason goes, that's Morgan. So yeah, man, it was a pretty cool thing to see, and glad to put a face to the name tonight, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here, guys. I appreciate you guys having me out here.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure, and really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, Morgan.
Well,
So, with that, so I don't talk so much tonight. You guys ready to get into some highlights?
let's
Yeah.
do it,
Let's
Stevie.
kick off the highlights.
FV's up first. It was at Cadwell, one of the tracks that I am not a huge fan of, to say the least.
Oh, I love this track. We got to race it twice this weekend, and it was a blast both times.
And the drivers are on their way, heading down
It's a
that
good one
straightaway
for V's.
off into turn
Yeah.
number one. These drivers have only one goal when it comes to negotiating the first
God, I
sector
love
of
the
this lap,
smoke.
and
That's-
that is
that's-
to
Oh,
survive.
yeah.
It doesn't matter if
Just
Lewis
the
is
oil
just
burning
making through
right
clean,
there
and
when
then
you
the
shift,
ball
that's
is
all
side
oil.
by side racing, single filing out
incredible.
between Tortolo and Ethan Orr. That's going to allow Tolo to slip his way up into second. James Matthews
Trenton
Sheldon
Kramer in here
leading
saying
this race.
S-tier track,
Tortolo
and
in
I
that
do
one
want to
car.
say,
Gonna try and move
Stevie,
up to
Antonio
T1.
threw a
He's gonna be on
jab.
the
You
outside
might have
line,
to throw a
heading
counter
off into
jab
turn
here.
number
Said
four. Through the heavy
Stevie
braking
has
zone.
never
Let's
looked
see if
so
he'll be able to
beautiful
get
as
this
he does
move
tonight.
done. No, Matthew
Wow.
Sheldon fighting
I
back
won't
on the
argue.
inside line.
Oh.
I won't argue.
That move done to slip his way
Those
up
are
into the
fighting
race. Some
words.
side-by-side racing still going on, involving Ethan Orr and Trent Kramer. You also got Nate Coliseo and Jason Greenose to tail right behind.
Yeah, not
Best
too
paint
bad
job
here.
on the
We're
grid.
super clean here so
Of this four-car pack that is broken
Was
away
that-
from the
was
rest of
that
the
the
field. Look at
sticker
that
that they put
Tortolo
on
trying to
fruit?
get that move
Is that
done
what that
down
was?
the inside
Yeah, it's
into
the
turn
Chiquita
number four,
banana
nearly
car.
running off into the dirt in the
Oh my
process.
gosh.
But here we go.
Yeah,
Heading
that's
down into the
that's
braking
Nate
zone of four.
Nate
Sheldon
Coliseo,
still on
and
the
it's
outside line.
yeah,
Tolo on the
it's pretty
inside.
cool to see
Let's
that
take a
guy,
look at some
and he's
replays
quick too.
to see the very hectic start
Mhm.
of this
That's
race.
awesome.
This was a moment from a
Tor
Sheldon.
actually,
no.
It was.
Yeah.
I
Tor
wouldn't say
actually drives
entirely
for Brabham
self-inflicted. I think she was
Esports,
checking out
Morgan.
to try and avoid contact with the car right in front of her. As we see the moment for Ethan Orr in the 222 car.
There were a lot of issues in
Coming
lap
off
one.
through
Yeah.
the
Well, I mean,
side.
tires-
That curb loses it,
Oh,
and bang,
my
into the wall.
God.
That's a huge hit for him.
Ooh.
As
Big
we
clout.
see this moment for Jason Green.
Antonio,
You can see
no,
Orr going off
don't
the
do
track,
it.
so he's
Don't
thinking,
do it,
hey,
Antonio.
Antonio!
Oh.
Well,
yeah, you got a
I
bit of
will
help
give
there
this
from
to
the
Antonio.
drivers, I believe. I
Antonio.
can't tell.
For the
I believe
first
that's
time,
Antonio
I think in
Reese. Yes, it is.
Antonio's
Let's see
uh,
what happened.
season,
Yeah, so we
he
have
spun
just,
somebody
a little
else.
bit,
For the
little bit
first
too
time,
late on the brakes
Antonio
there
did
from
not
Tom
get
by
spun.
the looks of it, and sort of the accordion effect into Russell Telker. Unfortunate.
I guess
Yeah,
that's
that
new
was,
person.
uh,
I'm not really sure.
There goes Michelle, myself, and Ethan. We all went to the back in lap one.
It's all right, Antonio. Don't worry about it, man. You've had so many anvils hit you this season. I think you deserve at least one gimme.
Side-by-side racing going on with Tolo and Sheldon heading off through the 6 and 7 chicane. They started
Lap
going
12
side-by-side
now.
through
These guys have
4
been
and
racing
continued
like
off,
this
now
the
heading
entire
down
race
into
so
turn
far.
number 8. Single file, James Matthew Sheldon, the Spec 2 leader and the overall
James
race
Sheldon,
leader,
Spec
on
2,
to the
Spec 2
race
leader,
leaders that stand
overall
at the
leader as
present
well, by
moment
the
for
way.
Tolo getting that
Yeah,
move
he's
done
really
on
quick.
him to slip his way up
Oh,
into the
that
race
is a
lead, and look at that. That's a
dope. Yep, that was never going to end well.
And there it
That was
is.
never going to end well.
Through 11 and 12, it was
My
bound to happen
goodness.
at some point, and that right there, folks, is a
You know, it's a really good thing
lifeline
that
for
Formula
Jason Green.
Vs don't have
He
enough
finds
power to
himself
get air over
with
that
Tortolo
crest.
out of the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Significant damage
I think
on
they
that one.
briefly get all
Less
four
than
wheels
9
off, but
and
it's
10. Now
it's barely.
dropping the anchors into 11, he breaks a little
All right,
bit
I gotta
early, tries
pause
to
this.
That's
carry
got to be
the
one of the
momentum.
coolest corners.
Yeah.
Okay, it's paused because I do want to talk about this.
Mhm.
When we're talking about overtaking, obviously, and I can go to you as well, Morgan. Tor on the left and on the inside for the left-hander before what we just saw here. But he did have an axle beside, but James had an axle, almost a full car width beside Tor going into the right-hander uphill. What do you do there? Because really, James can't back out because he's got somebody right on his butt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, James overshot the corner. He was offline, and he was way, way too narrow.
Right.
So, and he didn't slow down enough. So, it was just kind of in my opinion, kind of just compounded mistakes there. It's possible to go too wide through there. You can't go full speed.
Right. Yeah, and the person on the outside.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think that for that to work, I think Tor has to notice right before entering the second section, this right-hander, that the pink car was a little bit wide coming through the first left. And if I'm in Tor's shoes, I'm going to notice that a little bit. Park it up more, and then get out of the way pretty much, just to avoid it. Because there's a very, very high likelihood that he's going to be all out of sorts by the time he gets to here, which he is.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say I'm just looking at this incident just on the basis of I could see that always happening, and I don't know if anybody's in the wrong for that happening, because James, there's really not much room for him to back out either.
I'd put him over James, but yeah, it's
grass and bang into the side. Look
Moving
at
on.
that janky physics.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be pretty hard for these guys to get around him on
Oh,
a track like
Jesus.
this without, really making a dive. Or and it looks like that's maybe what we're doing here. Jason Green just
Mark
hovering,
Cohn, by the way,
waiting
thank you for
something to happen.
sponsoring this race. You can
Maybe
see the
not
Joy
waiting
of
so
Driving
much
logo up there on
anymore
the
as
top
he goes
right.
to
That
the
this is a Mark Cohn
inside.
sponsored race.
It looks
So
like he's gonna be able to
thank you,
hold
buddy.
that
If
out.
you ever
People are
watch this
trying to
podcast,
come with him up the inside
hope
there.
to see you
Not a
back
bad
driving with us
strategy.
again soon.
We're
Just
coming
taking a little
down
break.
to the mountain here. This is where things start to get a little tenuous. You can't be too wide through here.
This is like the third lap sitting behind Tristan Jesus. It was
I don't have a
so
good
difficult
feeling
because there's
about all
barely
this when
enough
it
room
comes
for
to
three
seeing
wide,
Jason Green
even in the
himself
V's.
involved
So
in all these
Jason, are you about to do the same?
These
Okay, I was
drivers
going
are
to say.
racers. They're going to give us some good
No,
battles.
I was
to
just
talk
seeing
about.
if Chris
They're
was
going
back
to
out
get
already.
themselves
Oh yeah,
involved
they
in
did
terms
catch some
of
air,
all
Morgan.
of
Did you see that?
Just
a little bit. Oh my gosh.
It's a little tiny bit of air.
Oh, what a move!
Holy
crap, Nate.
turn number 8.
Trent owned up to
Sure did.
making
Pretty
a
awesome
mistake.
there
You can't
from,
see me,
the
but
move
I'm
from Nate
throwing quotes up here.
Yeah, there's
I'm
air
gonna
quotes there.
He made a mistake into that corner.
Sure
That
he
was the
did.
second to last lap.
And
this is the last lap.
I see where this is going now.
Season 1 of 2025 for the Formula V Weekend Warriors and for Nate Coliseum.
Oh yeah,
He
what a
begins his
mistake
final
you
lap
made
in the
there,
race
Trent.
lead. Will he end this final lap
I
in the
mean,
race lead? Trent Kramer now
if he
lets the teams
didn't
down
own
around
up
the
to
outside
it,
turn number
if he
4.
just
Gets
said
moved up before they
he
even
didn't say
get
anything
the
about it,
braking zone,
nobody would
taking
have
the
noticed
defensive line
because
into
he did.
turn number
He
4,
pulled it out of
moving over to
perfection.
cover off
Caught
lap
everybody
line,
by
and
surprise.
Nate Coliseum was
Or
probably
by
gonna use
surprise.
to try and get back alongside Coliseum, though still within striking
Oof, that
distance.
was
Trent
close.
Kramer in the 20 car, Nate Coliseum in the 8.
Yeah,
one looking for
Jim
his first win
Brewster
of the
noted,
season, the
Bob
other
Sharp,
looking for
yeah.
his
Montgomery
second. Did Nate
has a
Coliseum
Bob
get a better
Sharp
one? You
paint,
can see that
and
gap
we lost
closing
Bob
up
Sharp
between
this
these two.
past
Don't
weekend.
want to go the same way that we saw Tortolo and James Matthews Sheldon go through earlier on. That's part of the reason why they're single file heading through 11 and 12.
Yeah, I
got a
see.
good feeling
And
about
now
Trent
there's
Kramer.
nothing. There's
However,
nothing that
he
Nate can
exits
do.
turn
Trent's
number
got the race
17,
one
and that final
from here
run
on
to the
out.
final corner of
Trent
turn
just
number
got
18
him.
certainly
Oh
does
my
not
God,
that.
Trent.
Look at these drivers
Almost
running
been
the
to there.
crap
Oh,
out of their tires.
oh,
Contact.
no. Yeah,
Coliseum with the
I
double
think that's
lockout.
wraps
gonna
now.
seal the deal
So
for him,
lucky
unless he
that
has
the
a
Netco
monstrous
did not
accident and
punish
Trent
both of
Kramer
them
gets
there.
loose. That's gonna seal it. It was close to
Yeah, let's go,
disaster.
Trent. Great
Heading off
drive.
to the second to last corner, but for Trent Kramer, the number 20 car, he's gonna be tasting some champagne.
All right,
and
Stevie, you're
send
going
it
to
to
have
Trent
to
Kramer.
excuse my
Wins it here
ignorance.
at
Once
Cadwell
again,
Park.
I've shown a
Your
lot of
body going to win it in the
ignorance on this
Masters category.
podcast.
Gotta wait a while
I've
for
heard
him
Bob
across the
Sharp's
line.
name.
There he is.
I think
in
I
the
might be too
925
young
to win it
to know
in
who
the
Bob
Masters
Sharp is.
class, and that just about seals it.
Bob
for him
Sharp
winning the Masters
started,
Championship.
Well, that's not an
Season one of
excuse because I know who Bob Sharp is.
That's
Or
okay.
could be
I'm
one
just
of the
ignorant.
next
Got him.
class winners to
You
cross
grew
the
up
line
with sports
in
car
seventh.
racing,
He's
Morgan,
close with himself,
and
Jesus
Adam
Rodriguez
grew
right
up
at the
with
line. That's a
NASCAR.
photo finish
Kind
between
of.
those two.
Yeah,
Jason
yep,
Green, though,
that's
critical
true.
credit due to him.
Bob
He
Sharp
ends up
had
finishing this race in P5.
Datsun race cars back in the day before Nissan.
Okay.
And was one of the
And
factory
13th.
Datsun teams.
Got
that
it.
became
Oh, here we
Nissan.
go. Right as you pass it off to me, Josh. Jason
All right,
Green
and here we
guns
go,
it.
Morgan. As you
Let's
know what
see
happens here in
these
the Weekend
drivers
Warriors.
do, what sort of extracurricular
Here it
nonsense
comes.
they're going to get up to here tonight.
And he
wonderful.
cleared it!
Over the
Jason got it
wall.
cleared.
Matthew Sheldon didn't. Green landed
That
it.
is
was
incredible.
pretty
I love
good.
it.
Tortello finds himself sulking through turn number
There's
one.
Oh my God,
there's a
Jason, you
better-
were still able to drive the car even.
There's money.
Yeah, it only
Just
broke
saw-
one of the wheels.
Monty, he hit the wall. That was not a jump. That was just.
There is a better jump. This one.
Oh, here it is. Oh,
We didn't
Trent.
find it. Trent
there.
found it right
Oh.
here.
He lets it
But
over.
in order to take it, you have to stop right after the start finish line and then like take a cut through.
Gymnastics.
Did he clear it? Oh, Grider, so close.
Lawn darted himself into the barrier.
I mean, he landed it.
On his lid.
Oh my gosh.
There's some wonky V physics here.
There
he
well,
is.
well,
That's-
okay,
it's
well,
realistic.
Jason Green. God, I
Fine.
wonder what happened to the other 39.
I'm telling you, this is the funnest
disappointed
part
in the car.
for the commentators right here. They don't give a crap about the race. They just want to talk about what happens afterwards.
20 card Nick Coliseum going to be slotted in P2 at the
So
end.
this,
of
this
race.
track has
We're
got to be
calling
one of the
with
better
the
ones
results
for
class, and just about
for
seals the deal
launching.
in that
Oh, yeah,
championship.
for sure.
Shut up. Missed it.
Oh,
Those are the results. They weren't working.
oh, here we go.
So yeah, let's go, Trent. Great. His second win in the FEs, I think. Third win, overall win across the Weekend Warrior Series. I think he had one in the Formula Fords at Mosport.
Mhm.
He's come on this
season ago.
season a lot.
Yeah, he's actually been doing stuff like practicing and stuff like that. So when his PC is cooperating, yeah, he's flying, and I expect him to be flying again this weekend as well. He was pretty quick around Atlanta. So yeah, let's go, Nate, with another great finish.
Yes.
Money as well, getting P3
My
overall.
God, York, slow down, bro. Jesus, I just looked at that. I didn't even realize York finished third.
The old guys, Jorg's leading the battle.
I will don't like to shout out myself, but I was 21st after lap 1, so I was
Wow.
pretty happy to get back up to 5th.
man.
Ethan finished, he crossed the line in 6th, but he actually got a drive through on the last lap. Jesus ran out of fuel, and they had a 4X. So he got knocked down to 12th, but still, it was a great drive from Ethan because he was actually behind me. He was further behind than I was after lap 1. So great recovery drive from him, as well as Michelle finishing P9.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, she was talking to me about the race last night when we were all hanging out in the XSLR Discord, and obviously this is the first time I've seen any of these races this week, and she said it was an interesting one to say the least, and I can kind of see through the highlights. And this is the one thing I have to say about Cadwell, and everybody can slam me as much as you want. It is a fun track to just run. It's a fun track to just run laps on. But when you get other cars on it, it turns into an absolute shit show. I'm sorry. I've run it now 4 times, 5 times. They ran it in the Vs. I've run it in the SRFs. I did it in the Formula Fords. Now, Stevie, in the Formula Fords, it was monsoon rains, which didn't help.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's one of those tracks I cannot get into when I'm trying to race other people. It's just, you don't have the passing opportunities. The passing opportunities that you do have, the track is so tight. Now, in some of those sweepers, it would be easier to pass. The track is a little bit wider, but you cannot make passes when there aren't hard braking zones unless you have a death wish.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
I mean, we had, barring the rain race, the racing has actually been incredible and pretty clean as well. We haven't had any huge crashes, as we'll see in the SRS later. It's actually a super clean race. So yeah, it's depends on the drivers on the track. So let's leave it at that.
Yep. All right, moving on to the FFs here.
Formula Fords at another difficult track, Zolder. No rain, thankfully. Otherwise, this would have been way more difficult.
This race. Speaking of, the green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. That's a very quick
Wait a
jump
minute,
from
I
your
love this
race
track.
leader of Sam Spinell. He guessed it
Ian
very,
Joyner
very
didn't
early.
qualify
Going to have
first?
a super comfortable lead.
Well, we
heading
had
off into
Sam
turn
Spinell
number
returning
1.
his first race
The driver going side
for
by
him
side
this
a little
season.
bit
He
farther
is
in the back.
so
That
fast.
Right there is Yanchi Lin trying to make some moves up early
He
on.
was
Tortolo
Trent
trying
says
to
he's got a
start
track
him
record for the
as
410 around
Look at these
Cadwell.
drivers
Trent, you
fanning
will
out,
be the
heading
first
off through
and
turn
only
number 2
person
and 3 for the
to run a
first time
410
in
around
this
Cadwell,
race.
buddy.
Leading it still is going to be
Just
Sam Spinell
having
on
to
the
do
113
wheelies
car.
through the
Jonas
right-handers to make
P2.
the corner.
Edward Buchanan, Yanchi Lin, and Tortella running at your top 5. Load up this replay of Mark Smith.
Yeah,
All right,
Sam
JG1.
was with us,
Drop down Jim
first
Brewster
part
heading
of
down
last
here. You
year.
can see Wilkie running a little bit farther
Yep.
up front.
It's been about
Down
a year
into turn
since
8, he
he's ran
goes
with
for
us.
the
Here's
move.
Josh Wilkie.
Oh,
Anvil.
Crap. Yep, the random bowling into turn 8.
Yep.
York Monty is your current leader in
Josh.
the Masters class, a
Yeah.
little bit farther up in front of Antonio Race, who's running down.
Whoa,
into
whoa, whoa.
Respect two, as we see a wild ride for those three.
What was
Number
that?
5, currently
The
running
best
20
highlight.
as it stands at
Yeah,
the-
that was
currently running
cool.
in the number 20
Yeah, the
car
the
as
SRFs
at the
get
moment he's not
launched
running in 20,
and then they
instead
nose
he's
dive
running in
and
12
spin, but the
side-by-side
Formula
between
Ford,
Garrett
it's just
and Jason
the front
Green heading
launches,
off
but the
through turn
rear
number 1.
doesn't. So
That
they
could
just
have
do a
ended in tears.
wheelie
That was a matter of
off of those
millimeters
sausage
between
curbs.
those two cars coming out of turn number 1, but
They
here
just
we
get
go.
turned into
Side by
darts. That's
side
incredible.
into 2.
Yeah.
Soren Garrett trying to fight back on the inside line as Jason Green tries to hold his own in the 160.
Oh my goodness, and some let's just call it.
Oh, is that,
brave right there? That was well within the
JR.
range of,
That's JR.
the
Yeah.
net code
Mhm.
that could have
His
risen up
first
right there,
broadcast
wiped out
with
both
Weekend
of those
Warriors.
cars as
All
their
right.
wheels were.
Well,
within
welcome
the
in,
range
JR,
of
if you
ever
there,
watch
which I'm
this.
gonna say
This race
touching
and the
there,
SRFs
and,
did a
they
great
may have
job.
gotten away with one once you've been.
Said he knew the
driving
track
iRacing for
really
a while
well.
and
He
learned
just
something
didn't know
about
the
netcode.
cars
You learn that,
for the
what
members
you're
yet.
seeing in front of you may not be part of the netcode reality, and you need to give a little bit of extra space. And those drivers rolling the dice that time through, and still the fighting continues.
Oh
And
my goodness, Jason,
goodness,
was that a
how
track
did
cut
they
there?
get through that in
Nope.
one piece?
No?
And flashbacks
Nope.
to the opening race of the season at
You can cut a lot there.
You can be,
Actually,
yeah,
that
no,
wasn't the
you
opening
can get
race
away
of
with
the
a
season.
lot
Always, you
here.
can see Morgan
Wow.
getting kicked up in the air coming out of turn number 1.
Oh my God,
Gilbert
you
Burns
are
running
loose,
down.
in the
One
background.
good thing
In the
is
background.
I'm just a big fan of having grass and gravel runoff area.
Here's the
However,
croc.
for these drivers, eventually with that kitty litter getting dragged onto the racetrack, it's going to make some of these exits of these corners feel more
I wish
like a
I wish
slip and
more
slide than
people went
anything
to this
else.
track. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
really interesting.
Antonio
and,
Reese, by the way, shouting
not
out the
to,
sponsor for this
be too
race. I
much
think
of
it
a
was
show
Soren
for
Garrett,
racing, but
this race.
appreciate
So
their
thank you, Soren,
constant
for doing this.
movement forward of adding realism.
And that's Soren in the white car right
and,
there.
the debris model that they have introduced.
Ron here
is
saying,
super
welcome J.R.
interesting.
Gregory to his first Weekend Warriors
honestly, as a
broadcast. Him and I did a
driver, I can't
boatload
say
of
that
radical
I've
stuff
really-
together. Awesome to have him on Sundays. Yeah, it's awesome to see
And
SMB
iRacing, of
pulling in
course, the premier
talent like
motorsport
this, man. It's
simulator,
really cool to see,
simulating all
Ron.
the stuff, including the inaccurate weather
Battle
radars that you see
continues.
in real life and see in the sim as well.
Corner.
Side racing between these two, heading down
And
into turn
Soren
number 10.
goes.
And let's see if it's a
Uh-oh.
gutsy move from
Oh.
gutsy move from Garrett. It's a gutsy move from Garrett to come down into the pits.
Soren had
That'd
enough.
be super
Yep.
unfortunate. We're gonna take a look at another angle of this.
Uh-oh.
of Penn
No.
to the smoke.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
He did release the grace
The
there.
obligatory Andrew Love
Oh,
Anvil.
well, you know,
Yeah.
that could be. And going back just real briefly to Love, it does look like he has exited the session after that collision with Garcia.
Oh.
And
Oh.
here's Nelson on a
Ah.
replay. Oh my
Not
goodness.
good.
As we see Ian Joyner heading down into the
Yeah,
final
Boris,
chicane.
that was
How is
it
this
was
going
in the
to
yellow
work
car
out
there.
with these two?
Got
Is this
punted
going
twice
to
in
come
that
up the
corner.
way of
Super
Joyner?
unlucky.
Is it going to come up the way of Spittle? It's a long pit exit around here, taking
That's
the outside
almost
line
impressive.
through turn number
Yeah.
one.
Almost, but not
Spittle
in
out
a
and
good way.
away. I
Mhm.
think it's going to work out well for Sam Spittle on the 113
So,
car. There is Spittle
Sam had been
looking
running
through,
in
trying to
Ian's
spot
draft for
that
most of
car.
the race.
That's meant to look like
Andrew
a
saying
cardboard
zigged
box.
when I should have
He's got
zagged
away
there.
with this
Yeah,
one. So
yeah.
there you can
Yeah.
see him 4.2 seconds in front of Ian Joyner.
But you got to run him over with precision.
So yeah,
Oh! All right, on cue. That's number 113 launching into the kitty litter.
yeah, Sam was able to save 4 seconds of fuel.
Up, looking at another battle involving Richard Harwood
Oh,
spinning
Tor.
and coming to blows with Tortella right as we jump to that
Tor
camera
managed to
shot
avoid
hang
this one.
off through the turn 10 chicane. Sure, looking at a fight that may develop here
Uh-oh.
involving Jörg Monty and Richard Harwood. Trent Kramer coming
last
into the
lap
pits.
battle.
I'm not sure whether he has some sort of penalty in the number 20 car. I
Oh,
will
my
take a
goodness.
look to see whether that is the case, or he's just coming in to top up on
Listen
some
to Ron
gas,
here.
I guess. In the immortal words of Randall McGrew, Trent Kramer going to pick up the Adam Thompson Trophy
No.
for the best fuel saving in this race, having to come in at the very end. That's me. I apologize.
I am so glad the Thompson Trophy is stuck, Stevie.
In a commentary booth, and I've been in how many goddamn times has it happened at this point? I do not know. Look at that Harwood run the rally line off through turn it.
That one
number
was a slow
5.
down.
But back at the north end of the field, Sam
Yeah,
Spittle,
Ron was
in
just
his
getting
first
revenge for
time in a
the
Formula Ford Weekend Warriors
the
race, and
meows.
probably
For the
about
meows.
a half
Oh yeah,
a year,
it ain't,
gonna
even
come
though
onto that
we'll
start
talk
finish
about it
straight away
later.
to win
The
it here
meows
at
are not going to
Zolder.
go away.
There's
I
a
promise
checker
you
flag
that.
for Spittle. He is victorious. But when it comes to the championship, Ian Joyner is going to finish about 4 seconds back in P2.
He
is
celebrated.
going to take it.
Great job, Sam.
Who that was that crashed.
Good thing he wasn't close to his incident
playing.
limit.
Do we get
Right
results
next
here on this one,
line
Jason?
that start finish straight away. That may have been Spittle who decided to bring an early end to his
Yanshi in
pace
third,
lap and
Tor
just
in
call it a
fourth,
day. After
Amani with
that,
the
Yanshi Lin
Masters
going
win
to
in
round out your
fifth.
podium in
Let's go,
third.
Money.
Next
Great
car to
drive.
cross the line is going to be Tortello. Riding at your top 4 in the number 27 car. York Money will win it in the Masters class for the 18th quintillion time here for season 1 of 2025. Grabbing what I believe is his first Formula 4 Weekend Warriors Spec 2 class win.
Let's go,
There's
Ethan.
Orr the 333 heading his
In
way
Spec 2
through
win.
the final chicane right now, and he's seeing that checker flag in the air, and it will be victory for Ethan Orr in the Spec 2 class at the end of this race.
And Ethan's one of those guys who's kind of like
open wheel cars can
person in the fourth chair this week. He's fast on everything.
Yep. There we go.
Boom.
Show me how to hit those
JG's
balls. Nice.
Oh.
The beauty
There we
of
go.
sim racing is you can destroy your equipment at the end and laugh about it.
Right. JR said it perfectly there. That is the beauty of sim racing, is you can do that kind of stuff. But yeah, results. Sam, first time I've seen this name since the Weekend Warriors have been with SMB. So congrats, Sam. Finally, someone was able to take the battle to Ian Joyner, man. Like that's it's been an Ian Joyner show in the Formula Fords for weeks now, months even. So, yeah, congrats, Sam. Yorgmani, the janitor, as Randall would call him, cleaning up there in the Masters class, taking 5th overall as well. And then again, Ethan Orr, top 10. Congrats, Ethan. Justin Meaden, that's a new name that I haven't seen around either, finishing P2 in Spec 2.
Yep, yeah, it's his first race with us.
Keith Bolton.
All right, you ready, Jason?
Yep.
Here we go.
SRF.
Go
Cadwell.
Back to Cadwell.
The field down the hands of our pole sitter.
Yep.
The green
And
flag is out,
the track
and the
that I
drivers
hate.
are on their way.
There's a
And
green
for
car on pole.
green, it's got to be a green
It's my
and go at
second
the start of
ever
this
pole
race,
in the
heading
SRFs
down
Weekend
into
Warriors.
turn
I will say,
number
before I walk away
hanging
from the
through gears
microphone, green car
and
bad.
carrying the momentum all
Oh
through
yeah, I
turn
mean,
number
just
one.
you have to wait
Felix
2 seconds.
Side by side with
Yeah, I'm
Trent
waiting.
Kramer. Looks
Oh,
like
is it green car bad?
Or go off the track.
Green car bad.
Snow is running
Oh, no.
wide off into the dirt. That's going to
Oh,
allow
green
the
car
number
not too
28
bad
car
there.
there of,
I mean, yeah,
Daniel
just-
Wilson slip in front of
Yeah.
Samoa is not the start
Went
that the
wide
driver
and gave
number
up the
31
lead.
car had
Yeah,
in
you know, it's
mind at
turn
all,
2.
but
It's fine.
heading
Got
down
the
this
lead for
back
like a
straightaway
corner.
off into turn number 4. These racers certainly going to give us a good fight heading into the first heavy braking zone
Trenton
of
again.
this lap. It's
Yep.
Bertie on this
Yeah,
LE
Trenton
car.
was
Jason
also
Green
quick here.
in front of Trent Kramer as Felix
Green car
Simoes
fall.
is looking to fight back.
Taking advantage
Nice one,
of that
JG.
vacuum power behind Naselli.
This was the only major incident on lap 1.
Backing up just a little for me, so maybe you can pick it up.
Brad,
Cars are
a
kinda
little
training
deep
up
there,
there
and that
for
was
the
it.
front train. That's Naselli from green.
Yeah, that wasn't too
Kramer
bad
from
though.
Samoa
Yep.
is up front, and that is about 1.2.
Although the
seconds
thing that caught me
separating
out was
those cars, and then the next train
the
to follow
cold
right
tires
across Odell
were
and Wilkie, and
I keep
those
failing
cars
to
will
take those into
see
account
them
this season
coming up in the back
because they're
of
way
the
worse doing
just
the
over a
outlap.
second between those. So
Saw that happen and could be part of the reason why we see this happen. This hangs
This
turn
was
number 1,
spicy.
involving SMB's very own Mr. Josh Wilkie sneaking moved on Michael Odell heading down into turn number 2.
These two had
That
a
was slick there, Mr.
pretty
Wilkie
intense battle
has
for a
to start
couple
pulling in
laps.
Mr. Vaseline.
happy about that. These are momentum cars.
Money,
And
no.
here's Matty. Oh, that little
One of the
clutching
hazards
moment
at this
there.
track is there's a cliff on the edge of those curbs, and it'll catch you out.
Immediately, I apologize there, Jurg. It's now Antonio Rio.
Oh, boy.
I'm not sure
Antonio
who that
dodging a
was,
bullet there.
Nearly coming in for the kill. This is heading down into turn.
Here. I think Jason was mentioning this.
Frito, if you watch this podcast, look away, friend.
We talked about
oh no, Frito, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, Ed. Don't do it, Ed. Don't do it, Ed.
Those curbs can come
It's
back
gonna,
to
it's gonna
bite
rejoin
back.
the track. It's fine.
No.
It's
Upside down. Who is that he just cleaned out?
Poor McKellar.
That is halfway unfortunate. I don't think he rejoined the track in an unsafe manner.
But it was too slick.
Yep.
Kramer got a move done on Jason Green a couple of moments ago. As we see Adam Bradshaw going for a move on Jim Brewster, heading down into turn number 4. There's a replay of what happened a few moments ago.
Oh, by the way, Morgan, in the chat here, we got Yanchi Lin saying, met the guest today at Daytona before he got in the car.
Currently right in front of Maurizio
Yes, we
Nazelli.
did.
Yet to come into
What's up,
the pits
Wanchi? How you doing?
in the 297 car, but let's see how this shakes out for these racers. Trenton Kramer on pit exit, Jason Green on pit exit as well.
That's another guy that runs Spec Racer Ford in real life. Michael Odell runs with Alliance Auto Sport.
In the number 20 car, who, whoa,
I'm a big Michael Odell fan.
Oh yeah, Michael Odell. We had him on the podcast. He was a blast on the podcast, man.
Backing out of it. I'm
He's
going
awesome.
for all that glory. And Nazelli,
He says he's going to run all weekend wars that he can as long as he's not at the track.
Right. To take a big chomp out of Trent Kramer, but look at
I love
Kramer fighting back.
This was a flashback to Donington.
Kramer on the inside line, Nazelli on the outside. The 20 car trying to retake the lead of this race. It's still a battle for the front, though. Jason Green dropping back, really getting the short end of the stick, and all of this was Felix Samoa. I can't even see him
really
on live
kicking
timing
butt
tower right
lately.
now. I think something's
Yep.
going on with him. He's all the way down in 28th, back in the pits.
And his computer doesn't when his computer cooperates as well.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Trent, I've got to.
Fight back, heading down into turn number 4, getting that inside line. Let's see.
I'll talk about Trent in a minute after this ends.
Holding on to that inside line. Will he get the move done? I think he just got the move done on Trent Kramer. Slick stuff from the number 44.
Jim Brewster said, did Morgan hear that Brad bought an SRF?
Brad Gold.
Yeah.
Really? That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, he got a really good deal on a Gen 2 that he's going to convert over.
That is awesome. I'm happy to hear that. Congratulations to Brad if he's watching.
Yeah, Nazelli doing a great job there.
And leaders in that traffic now.
I think he's in the lineup to be a guest before too long as well.
That'll be great.
Yeah,
Brad's awesome.
Larger than 1 second.
Yeah, he was at VIR when I was there with the runoffs and met Morgan face to face and a bunch of others. It was pretty cool.
917 holding up Nazelli, and
We got to do another one of those meetups. That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And he'll have this one done. And meanwhile,
Well, one of these days I'll have to do a meetup with you guys, and I'll bring my family of 3. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Got to introduce her young, Stevie. You know.
And there
That's
it.
it.
I will say there's no better family outing than a racetrack. I think that's
Let's go, Maurizio. Maurizio getting the win. Great drive from him. No anvils.
Trent called it, by the way. I will say, before you keep talking here, Jason, in the chat, Trent said the new tire model, and he gave the Guido Marzucchi sign there. It is perfect, man. It is absolutely perfect. I love the tire model in this SRF.
We'll have to get feedback from the real guy here after a bit. See what he thinks.
I'm sure he's going to shoot it down. He's going to be like, oh, yeah, it doesn't drive anything like this in real life.
With the jumps,
Here's the jump.
this is what we saw.
Almost cleared it.
Less impressive. I did get a push. I was out of fuel.
Again.
2 from the North Korean judge, but 10s from everybody else.
Who just mentioned a North Korean joke there?
Yeah, that was JR.
Wow.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Beautiful.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, Maurizio Nazelli. Congrats, man. We're not going to talk about Suzuka, but Maurizio back up there in first place. Congrats, buddy. And I do want to talk about, actually, I am going to bring up Suzuka real quick, Stevie, and I'm not saying anything bad, but the way that Felix and Maurizio handled that off the track together was perfect. Those drivers are stand-up people, both of those guys. Just watching through the SRF chat and talking to them afterwards, it was pretty cool to see. So everything that happened in the YouTube chat had nothing to do with those 2 drivers. Those two drivers were on top of it. So thank you guys for handling that so well. Antonio Reese, my goodness gracious, cleans
Takes
up
it to the janitor.
The janitor cleans up the janitor there. York Monty back in 10th. York, how's it feel to get beat by your buddy? About time. Sitting there in 4th place. And Michael Odell sitting up there in 5th. Again, Spec 2 driver, but obviously SRF in real life. And I think this goes to show that if you have driven these cars, we can talk to Morgan about that here in about 20 seconds. It does kind of transfer over a little bit at least.
Yep. Shout out to Josh Wilkie as well, managing to finish a race and in 9th place.
Yeah, absolutely, Josh.
Josh.
The guy, I'm still part of the SMB admin chat and all the broadcast chats and stuff, and Josh, I could tell, was not having a great weekend after the Formula Fords. So, but it looks like he turned it around just a little bit there for the the SRF race. But here we go. Guys, we're going back live here, and Stevie, I'll turn it over to you if you think you can talk, because I know you've got some questions for Morgan here.
Well,
and I know
we want to do
well.
there's some slides to put up first.
Oh yeah, we do. So why don't we do that? Look at what we've done here, guys. By the way, my masterpiece. Here are the standings for round 11. Look at this, Stevie.
That is good.
I know.
The left side numbers are overall positions, but go ahead. I'm still probably cutting up a little bit.
Yeah, cutting out pretty bad. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so we got the Formula V's, Tortolo leading the way. I haven't done the math yet, but I'm pretty sure he's got a lockdown. I don't think it's possible for me to actually get enough points to get past him. So yeah, battling just between me and Nate. Have to look into the math on that as well. We got Spec 2, Andrew Love, barely in front of Michelle Lynn, and Russ lurking in the background there. With the amount of points they have, anything can happen there. Somebody gets into the top 3 finish. Anybody could take it in the last race.
I do want to talk about this real quick, this championship battle. Again, with me being still a part of Slow Motion Broadcasting, I can see all of the chats through all of the league admin still. And Michelle has decided to put a new logo up for the final weekend that she's sponsoring. She doesn't want the Anvil logo up in the top right-hand corner, Jason. I wonder why. I think it might have something to do with the fact that Russ Telker is still within striking distance there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we had hoped that it would be a reverse curse or reverse jinx, but it doesn't seem to be actually working like that. It could also be the track that she picks to sponsor as well. Gonna throw that out there, but yeah. So I don't know. It's still up in the air. I think between Andrew and Michelle. Good luck to both of them. Don't want to root against either of them.
No.
So Monty's got the Masters division locked out. Jim having a respectable points total though behind him. I think that's the closest. Yeah, that's the closest. Closest Masters race between the 3 series. So let's go, Jim. Great season so far, and Nick Tola as well. Having a lot of good races. Much better season this season. So love to see that. Formula Fords, Ian's gone as he has been for the last 3 weeks. He's got locked out. Tor coming in out of nowhere. I don't think he's been in the top 3 at all this season so far, but another great finish from him. Puts him up into P2 pretty comfortably, I think. But you can't see the people right behind me. And third in Spec 1, but there's like 4 other people there. Michael McConnell's there. Soren's there. And I'm missing another person as well. So there's like 4 of us right around the same points total. So P3 is definitely up in the air.
I had to flip it on the chart this time because Michael was up there last week.
Mm-hmm. Spec 2 is also look how close that is between Bill, Boris, and Jeff.
They're talking about that as well. And the one thing I want to ask about that, Jason, is you've got Bill, Boris, and Jeff. They're all, if you look at those points, they're within 20 points of each other. So obviously I know there was a drop week for Boris this week. So drop weeks are in effect right now with these standings, correct?
Yep, it's counting two out of 3 drop weeks so far.
Okay. So, yeah, that's going to get real close at the end.
Yep. And I have been Boris and I have been, or I've been practicing with Boris a little bit last couple weeks. He had been PMing me about what his points were, but yeah, I'm not going to say I'm biased towards any one of those three, but you got it, Boris. Let's go, man. But yeah, all three of them having a great season. Monty has double the points in the Masters, so I think he's got that one nailed down. But both John and Antonio are pretty close, I think, based on their points total. So anything can happen there for second place.
I want you guys to look at real quick before you mention that, Jason, because you're about to come to this. I want you to look at, so if you see the numbers on the left-hand side there, and you look down at the Masters class, you see 2, 2, and 4 for that for the leader of all three of those classes. Just want to mention that.
It's almost like somebody should be in Spec 1 instead of Masters.
Yep.
But you know, we'll I'll leave that one there. Yeah, SRFs. Felix did not have a good race at Cadwell. Had a spin, got cut up at the curbs, and then had the unluckiest spin going into the second to last corner. I didn't even know that these barriers were there, but there are 3 barriers that are perpendicular to the track, and they are exactly an SRF wide or an SRF apart. So he caught one of the curbs and went in between 2 of them, and the car got stuck.
Oh no!
So he had the tow. So yeah, he did essentially had a drop leak out of that, and at a track where he was super quick. So
you have a chance here, Jason.
I am technically in the lead. Felix has the huge drop week advantage over me. So essentially, what it comes down to, if Felix finishes in 3rd overall, he wins the championship no matter what I do, even if I win and get maximum points. So just to put that in perspective. So we'll see. Anything can happen. SRFs are going to Road Atlanta short. So that race is going to be wild.
This is going to be at the Road Atlanta.
Yeah, I will say, we did the SOF race, Jason. Okay.
Yep.
And here's all I'm going to say. I may have been in the second split. Okay. All right. Don't know how I got there, but I made it in the second split, and I won with 0 X's. So I will tell anybody racing in the SRFs this weekend, you can win, and you can do it with 0 X. Just saying.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna say that the top 4, I think they all had at least 12x. So and I was in 5th with 1x, and I was
be
6
better.
seconds behind.
That's all I'm telling those top 4 is to be better.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, cough cough Trent with 12x. Right. But yeah. So anything can happen to run Atlanta, especially in the short layout with the draft so powerful. Trent, I did the math. I don't think he can catch either of us, but still a solid season from him. I think he has 3rd almost locked down. In Spec 2, again, super close. We got only 9 points separating Ben and Dan, who both had fantastic seasons so far. Ben especially, in the latter part of the season, he's been consistently in the top 10. So yeah, that'll be an interesting battle to watch in the last race as well.
We don't even talk about the Masters winners at this point, or the Masters winner.
That's true. But I mean, for P2, we've got the 2 Aussies, Brad and Tom, duking it out. And yeah, that'll come down to the wire as well.
Yeah, it's going to be good, to say the least, and I'm super excited. I've got obligations on Saturday, a doctor's appointment and stuff, so I'm not going to be able to see the FV race, unfortunately. But yeah, it's gonna be fun to see. I may be tuning in here. Probably not going to be racing, seeing how close these points are, but I'll probably tune into the broadcast and maybe watch just a little bit of it. But
yeah, all 3 races should be crazy.
Yeah.
The Formula Vs are at VIR North. Formula Fords are at VIR Full. And then, as we said, the Spec Racer Fords are at Road Atlanta Short. So all 3 are draft tracks. All 3 are going to be crazy. And yeah, it's going to be wild.
It really will be. Speaking of wild, Stevie, you have found yourself a guest tonight that pretty cool, to say the least. Obviously, you and Morgan go back a long time, so we are going to go back here, and we are back here now live. So Stevie, yeah, here he comes.
All right. Yeah. Welcome, Morgan. like I said earlier, appreciate you taking time to be here tonight. Been around for a long time since you were kind of a younger lad. Were you in the SCCA esports, or were you in the unofficial league? How far back?
I started season 2 or season 3 of the unofficial league.
Okay.
I missed the boat on the official esports.
Okay. Yeah, and then we had you and Jameson, and there was just a group of you come in and just kick everybody's butt. So, and what were you then, like 13 or 14, something like that, if I remember?
It would have been 2021-ish. I think I was 15 because I got
15.
iRacing. I started
Okay.
my membership in January 2021, and I think I started the league in July or something like that.
Wow. So yeah, 15 years old, he was kicking our butts. Seasoned sim racers couldn't stay with him. So, and then of course we've seen him go on to do really big and good things in the real world, and we'll get some of that. But all that said, I want to kick it back to you, Morgan, and ask, where sim racing started for you, or how did you get involved with sim racing? How did all that come around?
Well, I have an interest. So my start in sim racing started when I was born. My parents were both SCCA clubs in the mid '90s. My dad got his license in '97, mom license in '96.
Yeah.
And they've been long time SCCA club racers in improved touring and a couple of spec racer Ford races. And then when I was born, I grew up at the racetrack. They were either racing or flagging. They took me to our home track is Summit Point. We live 15 minutes from the gate, so it's really close to us, and we can just go out there every weekend. We were there for all of the club races. I grew up there. I worked timing and scoring when I was 6, 7 years old, so I haven't really known anything else.
Yeah.
And when you're that young, you have go-karts, but you always want to get in a car. So I'd play Gran Turismo when I got home from school, and instead of doing my homework in elementary school, I'd lap the Nürburgring. So that was a lot of my childhood, and it was mostly arcade for a while, and then once I got really serious about it when I turned 14 or 15, started doing a lot more karting, started really caring about it, and realizing that I don't suck at this. This is fun, and I everybody's when they're 6 wants to be a race car driver, but didn't really think it was possible until I turned 14 or 15, and I got iRacing and realized that I can take this to a whole nother level. And that's really where my sim racing career started. And I started racing in the Raycing Line. And my first couple of races, I was like 10th. I would be really happy with a top 10. And it took me 4, 5, 6 months to get up and start battling with the guys at the front, with Miles Crab and Tyler Campbell. I haven't seen him in a while, but I miss that man. Tyler's awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many names from back. Well, I'd say back in the day. It was 3 years ago.
I need to stop you right there, Morgan, with the Tyler Campbell story. So Tyler Campbell is a driver that I met actually. I cannot remember how I met him. I think I met him through another podcast I was on. He ended up joining Cross Series League Racing, and he made setups for us for about 2 years for XSLR. So
awesome.
yeah, Tyler Campbell, a driver that I know very well, and it's cool that, obviously, to see the connection there, man. That's awesome.
He's from here near Fort Worth. He actually came out, and I gave him a tour at the facility and had dinner with him.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I met Tyler as well.
That's pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Actually, funny story about Dallas. I flew to Worth. My final destination was Nebraska because I was helping a friend out at a PCA event at Hastings Motorsports Park.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first time flying solo. I was 17 years old, mid 2023, and I board the plane from Washington, and it's 2 hours late leaving Washington. So I completely missed the connecting flight because nothing goes direct to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Missed the connecting flight. Exactly right. And I get to Dallas. It's 12:30, 1 a.m., something like that. And I'm 17, so I can't get a hotel room.
Right.
So it's either sleep in the airport.
Oh no.
It's either sleep in the airport or call up a friend. And I was like, I don't think I know anybody in Dallas. Well, I could sleep in the airport. These chairs are kind of comfy. And then I remembered out of nowhere that, oh, hey, Tyler lives in Dallas. I wonder if he's awake. So I give him a call, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm on night shift right now. I can come pick you up. And I mean, I felt so bad because I learned as soon as I got there that it was him and his partner's anniversary. So we had lobster for dinner, and it was or crab for dinner, and it was wonderful. I slept on their couch with their cats. It was great. It was the first time that I met him in person and crashed at his house before getting my connecting flight in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
I think that's one of the cool things about sim racing as well, is that it's not super local. Like the real racing is awesome, but really you're only going to see people from 3 or 4 hours drive.
Right.
But through sim racing, I've got people across the pond that I talk to on a regular basis. I have a couple New Zealand friends now that we talk to a bunch, and they're doing Formula Fords over there, and it's it's a really worldwide experience, and you get to talk to people from all walks of life, which is so cool to me.
Morgan, I've got a quick question for you here. If you don't mind me asking, where is your home state?
I'm from West Virginia.
Okay, so Ron Mons has been more active in this chat than I think I've seen him active in any other chat we've had here on the Racing Line. And he said Nebraska is about 50% dust and 50% bull. So obviously with your ventures to Nebraska, what were you doing up there?
Well, the first time I went to Nebraska was for the SCCA Solo Nationals in 2017. I was driving Lincoln, Nebraska, the gigantic, enormously, unimaginably huge airfield that's out there.
Yeah,
it's like 5 million square feet of concrete or something wild like that.
Picture up, Adam.
What's that?
That's where it came from.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
it is.
We'll show that here in just a second. Yep.
But actually, funny story with the Ron Mons connection. I bought his go-kart in 2017 when I was 11.
Yeah.
11 or 12, something like that.
That about 100 times. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. And that was the autocross go-kart that I used. We won the DC region national championship or regional championship in solo. Went to the solo nationals, and we got there. We pulled the cart out of the bed of the truck, and we lay it down into the staging area for our runs. And you take a look at everybody else, and our motor's not the same. We're either going to do really well or really badly. Because we had a Comer K80 2-stroke motor, and everybody else had Briggs & Stratton 4-stroke 206s. So they have a lot more torque, and moral of the story, we had the wrong motor. But I think we finished 7th or 8th or something like that. But it was a lot of fun. It was, if looking back on it, you drive 17 hours for about 6.5 minutes of track time.
Yep.
It's a little wild, but such a good experience.
I'm going to stop you right there for all of the motorcycle fans in here, which I am one. I need you to explain right now the difference between a 2-stroke and a 4-stroke motor, Morgan.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy. All right. So 4-stroke, you separate out the suck, squeeze, bang, and blow into 4 strokes of the piston.
That's also a jet engine term, by the way. Okay.
Yes. There you go. And the 2-stroke combines suck and squeeze and bang and blow.
Okay. That's fair.
And you have to have oil in the fuel.
Which one's better?
For what purpose?
Exactly. So you tell me which one's better for what purpose.
Couldn't tell you. I like go-karts that scream. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. There you go. So there's a 2-stroke motor right there. Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think I've seen really terrible French cars that are 2-stroke, but nothing decent that's got a 2-stroke motor in it. But
that's fair. I mean, I'm a big Supercross fan. Jimmy Howitt, who will never watch this podcast, but Jimmy Howitt got me into Supercross, and a few years ago, I think they even made the 250s 4-stroke. But back when they were allowed to run 2-stroke motors in those, you could tell who was running 2-stroke motors in those motorcycles. You could just hear them coming. And it was it was pretty cool. And everyone says difference between 2-stroke, 4-stroke. I know the 2-strokes, they burn a lot more oil, right? It's an oil water mix, or oil gas mix. But yeah, man, it's wild to see the difference in motors and stuff. But sorry, Stevie, go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, get that picture up, the last one.
All right,
Morgan
so you're
was
talking about this one right
20
here, right?
Yeah, 2017.
There you go.
Look at
That
those
is-
two guys right there. I'm pretty sure is that a young Ron Mons back there standing over?
That is.
Oh
that
my
is.
goodness.
And Morgan in the cart.
That
I
is
just-
that is me in the go-kart. That is wonderful.
I don't
Should be
think
another one.
I don't
Adam.
think Ron Mons thought that this picture was going to be shown even. I don't think Morgan thought this picture was going to be shown.
There should be another one that goes with it.
Okay,
there
so
is.
we can give me 1 second here. I think we're going to have to go that.
Okay.
Nope, we're going to go this way. There it
There
is.
you go.
That is at Nationals. I love it.
Ron thought he was
Absolutely
never going to get
incredible.
his face shown on this podcast. Well, guess what, Ron? You were wrong. So this is in the Nationals, you said, Morgan.
Yep, this is solo Nationals. I think this is like the first day. And that funny story actually. That blue seat insert
Mhm.
weighs 45 pounds because I was
Holy
I was
cow.
big. Yeah, we had a bunch. My parents, actually, my mom, was trained as a marine biologist and is a scuba diving fanatic. She loves all things the ocean. She's super into scuba diving. She actually got my dad to go into it. That was one of the conditions of marrying her. But when I was
Love it.
6 or 7, I had my first introduction to it. I have my rescue diver, advanced open water. I have all of my scuba diving certifications.
Nice.
But we had a bunch of dive weights lying around, and we ran out of space for lead to put on the go-kart. We were still 40 pounds underweight, so we took a foam seat insert in a plastic bag, laid a bunch of dive weights into it, and then poured the seat. And it was make sure nobody watches you pick that thing out of the seat because it is not fun.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, Ron here saying, man, I was a fat 12-year-old back then. Oh,
boy.
All right. So, Morgan, Stevie, you want to get into these pictures now because we got quite a few to go through.
Yeah, we can a little bit of Morgan's history and what he thinks of how the sim and real world mix and
I just want to show this picture one more time before we move
Yeah.
on. Obviously, a young Morgan and a bit of an older Ron, but Ron, this is so cool, man. I know you're still watching these. You're still watching the stream, so. Ron, I'm not going to let you live this one down, buddy. Morgan, thank you so much for these pictures, by the way. But yeah, moving on here.
Yeah, I think this is me and my mom's race car at Summit Point when I was 4 or 5, something like that. And I was so into racing as a kid. I couldn't get away from it. I would sit in my parents' cars and pretend I was racing them. This is really where the addiction started. There's a picture of me. Oh, I should have brought that picture, but there's a picture of me and I'm a toddler. I can't walk, and I'm sitting in my dad's suit with my arms in it and everything, and there's so much fabric that is not being used, and it's incredible. But I've had this addiction forever, and I miss that car so much.
All right.
Speaking of that
Here we
car,
are.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yep,
Mom and
there
Dad.
you go. Mom and Dad, both racers, and this is ITB in 2014, something like that. I was 11 or 12 for this, or no, 9. I was like 8 for this picture. But this is really when I was starting to
Morgan,
get more into it.
we're going to hang out on this picture for 1 second here because we've got you, Mom, and Dad in the picture. Jim Brewster said, tell us who's faster, Mom or Dad. And don't get yourself in trouble right now.
Oh, that's my mom. My dad knows it,
Oh,
and my mom is
okay.
faster. She's
Let's go.
she's incredible. She's actually incredible. She always tells this story, but it was, I forget what year it was. But at Summit Point, she missed I think she missed the first qualifying session for whatever reason. And shows up to the second qualifying session, goes out, lays her lap down. And the rest of the competition was they had done the first session, weren't doing the second session. And they asked, well, what time did you do? And she just shows them the grid sheet, and they're like, oh, we're going for second today. But yeah, mom was incredible. And, I think both of them, I think my dad won 2 ITC championships. My mom won the one. And they've been long-time Mars competitors running at the front in ITC, ITB, and ICA. So, yeah.
All right, moving on here. Speaking of ITA,
this is my dad's race car. And this is my driver school in 2022. And this is my first time driving a car. This is the first time that car had been on track since 2017. And my dad will tell this story.
I got to stop you right there. You said 2022 was your first time driving this car or driving a car around a track?
Technically, my second time driving a car around a track.
A car in 2022.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Yes.
Continue, Morgan.
There you go. But yeah, my dad will tell the story that he was prepared for me to be faster in his car than he had ever gone, but he did not expect me to do it on the first day of driver school. But yeah, that car was a lot of fun. We had a blast during driver school. And
Here's another one. Yep.
One of the Mars races. I don't remember which one, but we went through a lot of different tires on this year, and a lot of different air dams as well.
Did the wheel color come with the tires?
It did. It did actually.
I'm just wondering.
If you know my family, you know our basement is a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 2 CRX roofs, enough bumpers to feed a family of 7. We've got enough parts to build 17 motors for just Hondas. So, we didn't have a lot of rims for this car in particular. We had a lot of rims with the smaller diameter for the first generation CRX. So we just kind of pick and chose a bunch of rims from friends that had rims just kind of lying around and weren't using them.
Right.
So we had some multicolor stuff, and it was pretty whack for a lot of this year. But I think this is a picture of my first race where I landed on the podium at Summit Points, the first Mars race of the year. Landed on the podium of I think like 17 or 18 cars, but absolute blast.
Yeah.
Another picture there.
Yep, there we go. That is later in that year. It was Labor Day when I got my first 2 home wins. And that was the Labor Day double. And there you can see the mix of, an orange rim, a silver rim that is not at all the same.
That's what I was confused about.
Wonderful.
I was like, wait a minute. So the tires must come already on the wheels, and you just put them on the car at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly. So we did a lot of rotations that year. And this is 2023, the first time in a spec. Well, not my first time in a spec racer Ford. This is at VIR for the SCCA Hoosier Super Tour. Second time in the car, and ended up putting it 5th in qualifying, and won the race on Saturday. So first Super Tour, first race at VIR, first race in the rain, and ended up winning it. And that was absolutely incredible.
That guy behind you there is no slouch either.
Yeah.
No,
real quick here. We've got another question in the chat here. Jim Brewster said, grandfather waving the checkered flag for your first nationals win at Summit?
That is very true.
Yeah.
Well, yes, my grandfather waved the checkered flag, and my parents were doing jumping jacks next to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was
Mom, dad up in the starter stand.
Yep.
Awesome. But yeah,
absolutely.
That guy there behind you is no slouch.
Not at all. I think Sandy Satula, I don't think he's ever won a national championship, but he's come really close a few times. And Clay Russell, right behind him, is a 2-time national champion. And both of them absolutely incredible drivers in their own right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, we've had Sandy raced with us quite a bit in the on.
Yes, I remember that. And this is the aftermath of that win. We took a nice little team picture, and just all of the people that were involved in that win. You got Mike Amy in the front and center right behind the car, the owner of Doggone Racing, who made that whole year possible. He's one of the best prep shops in the Mid-Atlantic, and I think he's going down to Road Atlanta this weekend. So we'll be cheering him on for the Super Tour.
That'd be good.
Now, this is a little bit different. It's not necessarily centered around my driving. This is really when my sim racing career started to heat up, and I started doing a lot of coaching. And so funny story, and this is where the IMSA ladder kind of starts.
Cool.
I met right before the Super Tour at VIR. I met a guy called Jackson Gardner, who is one of the managers of MPG Race Factory, which is this team right here. But he does so much stuff I can't even list it. He's, I personally think he's a little bit crazy, but he's an absolutely incredible person. He had a long career in the music industry before COVID happened, and that kind of folded. He was a singer-songwriter and did a lot of the fundraising for his own gigs. And COVID shut everything down. So he's like, well, I did motocross when I was a kid. I kind of want to get back into racing now that I don't have music. And his daughter wanted to go race go-karts, and the rest is history, really. So he started being her mechanic and really started to apply his skills and sponsorship to the motorsports world. So I met him through a team that I raced for in sim racing. Reached out to him and kind of talked to him about I just did this at Summit Point. I won my first national race. I'm going to VIR this weekend. I'm looking to kind of branch out into professional racing. I don't really know where I want to go. I don't really know what I want to do. Can you give me some guidance? And he was like, yeah, of course. I got a couple other people down at VIR this weekend. We'll see how that goes, and then we can really talk about it from there. So needless to say, we talked about it from there. And he started helping me put together a bunch of sponsorship stuff, and really figuring out how to move around in IMSA, how to move around in SCCA, and invited me out to come coach for the MPG Motorsports team in the karting world. And we had a lot of success there, and we had two wins, I think, in the Stars Championship Series at Pittsburgh in this picture. But we had a lot of fun with the kids there. We the team is huge. We'd have 20 kids running on any given weekend, and it's a lot of work, but coaching those kids and watching them succeed and do what they love is just so rewarding. It's absolutely incredible. But the owner of this team, real quick before we move on, the owner of this team is Billy Vincent, who, if you haven't heard that name before, if you've seen the IndyCar documentary, he is the first voice you hear in the IndyCar documentary. He was in 2023 at this time, he was the technical director for Arrow McLaren. He is one of the coolest people I know, because he's just a guy being a dude. He's awesome. He's the most laid back human I've ever met.
Dude, Morgan says.
It's great. He's awesome. He started sweeping floors at Newman Haas 25 years ago, worked his way up the ladder to being the technical director for Arrow McLaren. And his whole motto and the way that Jackson and Billy live by is, let's get underfunded kids opportunities to go into racing. So I met Billy, and later on this year, we started to really talk about what we could do in professional racing.
Morgan, I got to go back to the previous picture. I'm not going to show it again, but we got a few comments in here. Sheila Cocky saying, grandfather did that with tremendous pride, by the way.
Yes, indeed.
And then Trenton Kramer said, Morgan's save going through the South Bend at VIR runoffs in 23 was the coolest onboard from an SRF that I've ever seen. And very close second was his runoffs 24 rush through the field. That was from Trent Kramer.
Yes.
So,
was...
I don't know if there's any pictures in that of that. But by the way, Ron said, I remember getting Morgan to harass my buddy Robbie Campbell, who was at this kart running in this shifter class. So I don't know if you remember that, but
yes, I do.
We got quite a few people chiming in here. Morgan, a lot of people have known you, but moving on through the pictures here.
Yeah, then this is the culmination of how great of a year 2023 was. We won. I think we started 8 national races and we won 7 of them. And the only one that we didn't win, we finished 5th. So it was an absolutely fantastic year. Got the track record at Summit Point, and actually in the race that I set the track record in, 20-lap race, I broke the track record 13 times.
Wow.
So it was absolutely incredible.
I see that's mom on the right. If we're looking at that's mom on the right, right?
Yes,
is that dad on the left there?
That is dad on the left. That is Sheila Cocky, my grandmother, on the far left.
There she is. That was Sheila. Yep.
We got Mike Amy in the gray hoodie and his wife Chris, the team owners, and then next to them on the right we have Leah and Jim Epting, who have been longtime family friends, longtime club racers, and go way back at Summit Point. They were big ITB racers and BMW 2002s forever, and huge family friends. And this was, looking back at the stats on it, it's a little wild. I was the first rookie to go into the runoffs and take the pole in 20 years, and the first to do so in the spec racer class in 25.
Yeah, I was just
so
going to comment. In addition to some of the background around that picture.
Yes, I was absolutely incredible. I didn't really understand how big of a deal that was until we went to the runoffs in 2024, and just talking to people, because I had qualified 20th at Road America, which was very different from pole in 2023. And just going around and talking to people, and I talked to Denny Stripling, who's a legend of the spec racer community and has been doing it forever. And
he's a good.
It was his first ever pole. Yeah, this is his first ever pole position, and I was, how is that possible? That can't be. I don't understand that. And he sat me down and he told me, you don't understand how hard that is because you just did it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly difficult. I mean, to go from pole 1 year to 20th the next year, the class is so tight, it's unfathomable.
Jim Brewster, by the way, said sorry, Stevie. Jim Brewster said after your car broke at the runoffs, we asked Brad who last drove the car, and his face just fell.
Well, I will say none of that was at all Brad's fault. We had a minor coming together in one of the qualifying sessions that fractured a right rear rocker arm bolt. And when we were going over the car Thursday night, we couldn't find anything, because unless you take the entire suspension to bits and put the bolt under a microscope, you're not going to see the fracture.
Right.
So it ended up snapping going through South Bend on lap 12 of 14, running fourth. Was in the lead pack. We were in a prime position to steal away a podium, and snapped going through the S's, and I had a really wild ride coming out of South Bend and had to retire, unfortunately. But that was incredible.
Morgan, I want to turn this conversation away from you for just half a second here, and I want to talk to Stevie Ray for just a bit. Stevie, your mic's getting a little bit better, and I need you to understand something here, and I think I'm starting to realize this after talking to someone that's done this for quite a while. A hairline fracture and a bolt, Stevie. That's aircraft mechanic stuff, man. Like that stuff that's stuff that breaks airplanes. That's stuff that breaks race cars with 2 laps to go.
Yep.
So
for something especially like the runoffs, I mean, you do your best. You go through the whole car piece by piece, and you do your best. But like you said, that was, how could you find that?
You can't. It's unfortunate. Exactly. But moving on here. That is a good picture.
Yes, and this is just, I love this picture.
VIR, wasn't it?
Yep, this was the lead pack at VIR. We had the top 4 cars were broken away after lap 1, and it was this close for 12 laps that I was in it. It was this close, and it was absolutely incredible to be able to get Dave Ogburn right in front of me, and Franklin Futrell and Russell Turner. So it's having these group of guys to learn against, who have, Franklin has done some Trans Am races and wiped the field there at Road Atlanta. Dave is an incredibly talented driver in his own right, and Russ Turner is the same. So it's incredible to be able to learn from those kinds of guys and just sit behind and watch how they take corners, what they're doing in the draft, how they're composing themselves, and it was a huge learning experience, and I was honored to be able to just hang there, let alone be able to race.
You mixed it up with them, yeah. And if you remember earlier, Adam, I said something about Morgan being close up with Dave Ogburn.
That's the one right there.
There you go.
Yep, that's Dave Ogburn right in front of him, and Dave Ogburn is obviously another driver on that we've had here in the Raycing Line that I had no idea who he was. So it's pretty cool to start putting faces and names, and that's awesome. Oh, look at this guy. Look at this guy, Morgan.
There you go. That is my first ever IMSA headshot. And it's a long story of how we went from the previous photo to that photo, because those two were taken 3 months apart. So I didn't know that photo was going to be taken until 28 days before the Roar.
Yeah. Wow.
We signed the contract to go pro racing in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge on December 13th of 2023, which is my birthday. The day I turned 18, I signed my first contract. Wow. And that was, we go back to the Billy Vincent story of how we started talking to him, and my first phone call with him, the first time I met him, the first thing he asked me was what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go race sports cars. I've been watching that my whole life. Every year we watch the Daytona 24. I want to go race sports cars for my career. That's where I want to make my living. And the first thing he said was, "Thank God." we have so many kids come through this program that want to go race IndyCar. And the hard truth, unfortunately, is if you want to go race IndyCar, you're going to be spending $15 million before you get there. So the sports car path is, it's a little bit less lucrative. There's less seats that are as high paying as IndyCar, but there's more seats that you can get in and be okay with. And in my opinion, the racing is almost better, right? You have the multi-make, multi-class racing. The cars make speed differently. If you're in a GT3 car, you have to be worried about the LMP2 and GTP cars coming around you. And the night racing, I don't think you can beat that. There's just something about the cars pounding around the banking at Daytona, bottoming out and sparking when they're hitting the brakes for turn one, and the light show is just incredible. So he really facilitated this deal. He made a couple phone calls for me, and we got placed with the Victor Gonzalez Racing team in a Hyundai Elantra TCR car for 2024, which was absolutely incredible.
So I know you were in the TCR there. How does that feel, especially turn 3, turn 4, Morgan? Speedway, turn 3, turn 4. What does that feel in a TCR? I mean, do you feel the G forces?
You do. I will say it's the worst thing imaginable under caution. It's terrifying under caution. You feel like you're going to fall off the banking. There's not enough centrifugal force for the car to really feel stable. And like your body is just kind of falling down to the left the whole time.
You're just thinking, please hold on.
Exactly. It's terrifying. You're doing 35 miles an hour and it's terrifying. But I mean, at full tilt, it's incredible. You don't, Daytona's big enough that you don't really notice the speed as much. Well, like in a TCR car, keep in mind, this is a almost stock 4-cylinder turbo Hyundai Elantra N. You could go out and buy one tomorrow.
Jim Brewster just bought one, by the way.
I know. Yeah. He talked to me about that the other day, and it's an incredible car. I mean, it's an incredible platform. But you can go out and buy one that has the same powertrain in it. The only thing that we change for the race cars are the header, the muffler, and the downpipe.
Wow.
And a little bit of the ECU and boost management control.
I mean, how much more power does that give you?
Actually, less.
Really?
With the BOP, I mean, unrestricted will make about 360 to the front wheels.
Sure.
But restricted last year, I think we were 292 for the entire year with BOP. And we would still get up to 158 miles an hour in straight line at Daytona, which was absolutely wild. And, you don't notice it because the track is so huge. You don't notice it until you have to hit the brakes for turn one. And then it gets a little creepy inducing, but it's incredible.
Morgan, we are halfway through these pictures, man. So we gotta keep rolling through this.
Yep. I got you. And this is the car that I drove last year in Spec Racer Ford. Still with Doggone Racing and Mike Amy, but I had a very, very, very nice benefactor that lent me a car last year and was really, really appreciative to that. And I was able to compete in the Spec Racer Ford, which was a lot of the reason for our successes in 2024 and IMSA as a whole. So big thank you to him.
Pause right there, Adam. And while that one's up, I want to get a little bit more background from you on how you compare this car in sim and how you use it to help with that car. And, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, the two cars are pretty similar as far as their reactions go. We were talking about the tire model earlier, and that is really, really dead on. They've done a really, really good job with that. I think as far as vehicle dynamics go, it's not quite lazy enough. And I think one of the things that makes the Spec Racer Ford so difficult in the real world is that it's got 1980s technology on it. So it rolls a lot and it's very pitchy. And because it's so light, it's very input sensitive. So your throttle and your brake and your steering inputs are really, really massive contributors to how the car handles throughout the lap. And you don't really feel that in the sim. It's almost too stiff. But you can really, really use the racecraft in it because the draft is so similar in the sim. So you can really set it up. You've got 2 or 3 guys together that are all practicing for an event. You can you can dice together. You can, if you're at Road Atlanta, you can set up the last lap pass. You can do it 25 times until you've done every scenario, which is, that's invaluable information. So that's really what I use it for is the racecraft development, so that once I get to the racetrack, I know what's going to happen in any given scenario, and I'm not doing it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's something neat to hear.
Trenton Kramer said, "Oh, that's what I want to hear. Sold. Anybody want to buy a B-Spec?" By the way, from Trenton Kramer.
There you go.
Moving on here, there's a TCR. I know that Hyundai Elantra in, and there you are.
Yep. There you go. That is Daytona for the first time, and that was so much fun. And you can see how low to the ground.
There's nothing there.
Exactly.
And that's what why I don't understand, and I hope don't give us too much information because I know you can't. But how is that car that close to the ground coming out of what is that turn? Technically 3-ish turn. Turn 3.
Turn 2. Yeah.
Or turn 2. How can that thing be that close to the ground and be able to handle turns 3 and turn 4 speedway?
Well, I'm pretty sure that shot's under braking. So the way that you have to set up the front wheel drive cars, because they're front wheel drive, you have to do all of your rotation before you get to throttle.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have them really soft in the front so that the inside rear tire would hike up in the air.
Right.
And you would slide the car into the corner. You want as much dive, as much rotation as you could get before getting to the corner, and that's the output of it.
Right.
It would look a lot like that on the banking as well, just because of there's so much centrifugal force shoving the car into the banking, and you'd get a little bit of porpoising as well, which was a very strange sensation.
But considering you're in a TCR, not an F1 car.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, a quick question here from Jim Brewster. He's been blowing up the chat for about 5 minutes now. He said, "Tell us about gas saving. Please ask killer pit stops from you, Morgan, in that TCR race, which we watched. I know it didn't end as well as you guys thought it might have ended. But yeah, I mean, just watching your pit stops, you gained 7 positions in one race, man.
Yeah, no, that's something different from SCCA that you don't really get, right? The SCCA races are 35 minutes max, so it's a sprint race. You're going flat out the whole time. My longest stint in an IMSA race has been 2.5 hours.
Right.
So you really have to balance the car, and especially a TCR car, you're asking the front tire to do everything. You're asking it to accelerate, brake, and turn all at the same time. So there's a lot of energy going through the front tire, and if you push it as hard as you would if it were a SCCA race, you destroy the tire in 3 laps. So you really have to be gentle with it, and fuel saving was something that I'd never really done before, but I seem to have a little bit of a knack for it. I think if we go to the next picture, that is the first representation of it.
Yes, it is.
I made at this race, this was the second race of the season, and Chase Jones and I, which Chase actually runs part of MPG Motorsports, and he's been a long-time dirt sprint car racer out in Indiana, and he's a very successful career.
My home state.
Mazda. There you go. He's been a Mazda scholarship winner, and we got him into the TCR car for a few races last year. But this race, go ahead.
The next time you talk to Chase Jones, ask him if he knows the Terre Haute action track. Next time you talk to Chase, just be like, "Hey, do you know the Terre Haute action track? Because that is the city that I'm from." So
he does. Yep. He raced there. He had actually the reason he doesn't do sprint cars anymore is because of Terre Haute. He had a pretty nasty accident there going into turn 1 and 2. He got T-boned and ended up with a sprint car in his head. So
that happens.
Yep. So that's the reason he doesn't race sprint cars anymore. But this race is a 2-hour race at Sebring, and this was when I realized that I'm not too bad at this fuel saving thing, because I made a 60-minute tank go 80 minutes.
Wow.
And that was all just lift and coast, short shifting everywhere, and it's a really difficult thing to lift and coast and stay in front of the pack of 7 cars that's behind you. So you have to be really, really careful about how you do it. And, you can lift on entry, and you have to make sure that nobody's going to get a good exit because you have to lift again for the next corner. Sure. So there's a lot more strategy that goes into it that's not necessarily defending, attacking.
All right, moving on. We're almost there, guys. We have 8 pictures left, I promise.
Yep, there you go. This is the group of guys that got us onto the podium, and a wonderful group of people, and just raw emotion. I love this picture. There's so many people that banded together to make this all possible. I love looking back at this. This is absolutely incredible.
Appreciate you sharing them with us, Morgan.
Oh, that's a good
This
one.
this is the second time that we were landed on the podium. We had a pretty rough run from Laguna Seca to Mosport or Road America.
Yeah.
We had a pretty rough run, so we had a lot of mechanicals and a lot of DNFs. So that was unfortunate, but we bounced back at VIR. Tyler Gonzalez, my teammate, who, if you've never heard of him, he's an absolute weapon, incredible behind the wheels. He's at St. Pete last weekend and won one of the
Yes.
MX5 Cup races. So he's such a talented individual. He's one of the Toyota Racing Department development drivers, and got paired up with him. I started the race, and I was running 5th or 6th for a while. And we talk about those fuel saving skills. It's not necessarily bridging from the pit stop to the end of the race, but the start of the race to the pit stop. So if you save a bunch more fuel than everybody else does, your pit stop is less. So if you all come in under caution and you've saved 3 more liters of fuel, you jump 3 or 4 seconds in the box,
right,
which puts you from 7th to the lead. And that's exactly what happened. I think I saved 8 or 9 liters more fuel than the cars around us in a 60-minute stint. So we went from 6th to the lead, and really never looked back. If you want to see how this race ended, we led for 45 minutes. The wrong 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But if you look up Hyundai versus Honda VIR, this titanic battle will come up, and that was awesome. Absolutely incredible.
I want to stop you right there, Morgan, because you mentioned something right at the beginning. You had a lot of mechanical issues. I want to ask, as a driver, how much say do you have, and what mechanical issues did you have? I guess so. Like, as a driver, obviously you don't know because your mechanics do the mechanicking. You guys are driving the car. I mean, how much influence do you guys have in knowing how the car is going to go when you guys drive it?
Well, I mean, as a driver, you can feel if something's going
right.
So a lot of the times we would retire the car before something catastrophic happened. So it sucks. But these cars were never meant to go 2 hours. The TCR cars were only meant to go 25 to 30 minutes, and we're making them go 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours. So you're bound to have some mechanical issues. And we were on a pretty tight budget. So compared to all the other teams, we can't replace parts all the time. And we had to stretch things, and in the middle of the season, it was difficult. We went race to race, and it was, we'd always have really, really good pace, but it would be, sometimes in most sport we got crashed into and it shattered the power steering pump. So some stuff that wasn't really in our control, and some stuff's like we had an engine expire on us at Laguna. We had some fuel issues at Mid-Ohio, and some brake issues at Watkins Glen. So it was, it's rough, but you can feel it going and stop it before it happens.
Right. Oh my God, that's a Porsche.
This is a Porsche. This is 2024. This is about 2 months or a month and a half ago. This is the first introduction to Daytona. And absolutely incredible. We started talking to Steven Simpson and the Zabok Simpson Motorsport team late last year around the VIR Indianapolis timeframe, when we got on the podium at VIR, and then suddenly my phone started ringing. And the next race I drove from 10th to the lead at Indianapolis and led for 45 minutes before we had an incident with a GS car going into turn 1 that was pretty unfortunate, to say the least. And that took us out of that race. And then we led the entire, exact same scenario as VIR. We led the entire second half of Road Atlanta before we ran out of gas on the last lap. And we finished 7th there. So it was a rough way to end that season, but we showed the pace and we showed what we could do, and people took notice. So we ended up signing a 3-year contract with Porsche and CSM, which is unheard of as a 19-year-old at this level. So really excited to kick this off. And we had a really, really good run at Daytona. I qualified the car 3rd in my first ever GT4 race, and took the lead on lap 2 and never looked back. Led for the first 93 minutes, and it was absolutely incredible. We had some unfortunate, we had a pit protocol drive-through and a contact responsibility drive-through in the last 5 minutes that put us back to 14th.
Pit protocol drive-through. Could you explain that just a little bit further, if you could?
Well, I try and make myself not sound bad here, but I screwed up and missed my box the first time. I pulled in a little too early.
Okay.
And in legal terms, I drove through 3 more boxes than is allowed.
So you okay. So you missed your
Yes.
box.
Yep.
Broke too late.
I pulled in. No, I pulled in too early.
Oh,
So
okay.
there were 2 lollipops in the pit lane, and the Daytona pit lane, the slow lane. There's a fast lane that is a car width wide all the way track right. There's a slow lane that's 4 car widths wide, and then you have the pit lane right here, where the car's sitting right now. So there's 62 boxes on pit road, which is an eyesore when you're coming down the lane. And there were 2 lollipops that were pretty close together, and it was the end of my hour and a half stint, and I was looking at the birds or something, but pulled into the first one that I saw, and it was not the right one. So pulled into that one, pulled back out of it, and then pulled into the right one, but drove through too many boxes and gave some people a scare. So that one was on me. This is just more, just it's so cool wearing a Porsche logo. It's something that I've.
Oh man, this is. I mean, okay. By the way,
Awesome.
I do have to mention Jim Brewster again. Said, and then there's the Aston Martin at Indy, and then he said great TV time while you were leading at Indy. So Jim Brewster has been watching you throughout this whole thing, clearly.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
But moving on to the next picture, he called it before you called it. But moving on to the next one here.
There you go. This is just, it's so cool. I love wearing a Porsche logo. This is, I think, lap 6 or 7, and this is Porsche 1-2 at Daytona, which is it's great for the brand, great for the team, and it's incredible. You can see the fan interaction, and that's actually, I mean, a lot of the people left to go to the grandstands, but lap 1, it was incredible because you can notice it in the car that it is people everywhere lining the fences watching, and this isn't even the big show yet. So I think
a question for you, this is totally off topic, not really, but so when you're driving, can you hear them? Can you hear people? Well, I mean, people are cheering, especially when it gets close at the end. Can you do you feel it, or can you hear it? Like what's the feel in the car?
You can feel it. You can feel it. You can't. I mean, the engine is in the cockpit in this car. It's a mid-engine car. It's got a half firewall so that you can see out of the back of it. But the valve cover's in the car, so it's really, really noisy. But it's one of those things you can feel it, and it's I don't know how other drivers do this, but for me, I have a very, very wide sense of things that I notice. So it's almost like you turn everything to 11. And I'm noticing the other cars, I'm noticing how the track develops, where the rubber is, where the cracks are developing, all these different variables. But in your peripheral vision, you can see people's hands go up, and that is one of the coolest feelings as a driver.
Sure.
Like right after you make a pass, and you just everybody's jumping and hollering, and like you can't hear it, but you can feel it, and that's such a cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I need you to understand that you were at Daytona, Morgan. I don't know if this, I'm sure it's set in probably at this point, but you were at Daytona running a Porsche.
Yeah.
And that is a Cayman GT4, right?
Yes, it is. It's a Cayman 718 GT4 RS Club Sport.
Yeah.
To be precise.
So you're at Daytona running a Porsche a day before the Daytona 24, man. Like that's huge. I mean, I get goosebumps. Yeah. I won't ever be there, man. So that is so cool. So cool.
It was incredible. Absolutely. And that actually is how I feel about it. With a big old cheese on there, but I was just going out and leading the first few laps was like, oh my god, this is happening. This is so cool.
Yep. Wait, that was our reaction when we saw the highlights. Wait, it was this. Burkhard. Is that Morgan?
That's Morgan
in the lead?
Yeah. No, that was wild, man. That was really, really cool, and I don't think we've all seen each other here in this podcast. So let me go ahead and get this one back up. By the way, that is Morgan Burkhard, by the way. But Stevie, do you have any questions for him? Because I have at least one, and you know where this question is going to go.
Yeah, I know where yours go. No, I just you mentioned in your stuff about the sim racing and the coaching and stuff like that, and for somebody that's gone, you obviously started in sims, go-kart sims, and then into SCCA and IMSA. How much do you think that helped you and maybe give you a jump up on others? What are your thoughts there, Morgan?
Oh, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And this is, with the coaching that I do, I work with a lot of people who are coming from the sim and going straight into the real world. So I worked with a kid not too long ago who did his Skip Barber Formula Car School and got his SCCA competition license, and then jumped straight into a Cayman in Spain. I was working with him in Circuit Ricardo Tormo for a GT4 Winter Series race. He's come only from the sim, did 2 schools with Skip Barber, and he ended up, not far off the pace. He was only 2.5 seconds off the pace by the end of the week. So the sim is huge for development, and something that I explain to a lot of people is when you get to a level like IMSA, or you get to the level, at the top, the front of the Spec Racer Ford field, whatever field you're in, the front of that field, the peak is always going to be very similar. As far as driver talent goes. So if everybody's in the same driver talent window, I mean, we'll give it a number, right? If everybody has 100% talent, the only thing that's going to differentiate them is the amount of preparation that they did, and where else to prepare than the sim. So you can practice the racecraft, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, if you can, especially in multi-class racing and spec racing, if you can race better than somebody and get through traffic better than somebody else, that's huge. That's huge. It's almost like you have an extra second to lap on them. But more than that, you can develop track memorization tools. So the scans are so close that you can start to, sometimes in some cases you can use the same markers. But you can really get a feel for where the lines are. And with the development of iRacing Rain model, you can start to practice with rain lines. So there's so many valuable tools with the sim that can be used if you're going into the real world. And I think I have yet to see a sim racer come from sim racing and go to the real world and be awful at it. Yeah. So if you're good in the sim, it's the same properties, it's the same skill set, it's just different application. And honestly, when you're in the sim and you go in and drive in the real world, the sim feels like you're driving blindfolded. You're driving with one hand behind your back because your sense through the steering wheel, your sense through the pedals, your visual sense has to heighten to be able to accomplish the same things. So when you go into the real world, now you can feel everything. Suddenly it's second nature.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for that insight. And go ahead, Adam. I know where you're going.
Stevie, I've got the first question here, which is kind of a question. It's going to be a weird question for a younger guy, okay? But
okay.
I'm going to have a daughter. My daughter is coming. By the way, guys, anybody in the chat? 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I've got a daughter on the way. My first ever child. And sorry, Sarah. Hopefully my only child. I'm big into racing, Morgan. I'm huge into racing. Any type of racing, it doesn't matter. So what, in your eyes, I'm trying to ask Sheila this question, honestly. In your eyes, what would you do with a daughter coming in? What would you do to get them into racing and to get them to do something that I was never able to do from what you've done? Yeah, preparation.
I mean, the simplest answer is get them to the racetrack, right? So watching a broadcast is great, but for what I see with a lot of new people is that the broadcast can be kind of boring because it's, if you don't know what's happening, it's really boring.
Right.
But it's really hard to be bored at a racetrack just because there's so much happening. The noise is so visceral. And working with a lot of kids in the go-kart paddock, they all want to be there, right? The parents aren't forcing them to be there. They all chose to do this, and the parents are helping them around. So I think the best thing to do is get them to the racetrack, whether it's an IMSA race, whether it's an SRO race, whether it's an SCCA race, whatever it is. If there's something on track and it's racing, go for it. Have a good time. Pick up some camping chairs, go sit down by a corner and watch for a day.
Your first time at a racetrack.
He won't remember it. He's too young.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was 3 months old.
Oh my. All right, so we're good. All right, Sarah.
Yeah.
Babe, we're taking our kid at 3 months old.
There you go.
But yeah.
There you go.
So the next question I've got to ask here, and Stevie knows, this is a weird question to ask because you've already gotten yourself into GT4s, but what is your main goal out of all of this? Where do you want to end up? Like, what do you want to do with your racing career, Morgan?
Well, the short answer is drive race cars for a living. I've got a list of goals that I want to have.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I have a list of goals that I want to accomplish before I retire, and I want to compete in all 4 of the 24-hour races, where Daytona, Le Mans, Nürburgring, and Spa. I want to compete in all 4 of them. I'd like to win one of them. That'd be pretty cool.
Sure.
And there's a couple bucket list items
in the pinnacle class, right? Like you want to
Yes.
win. So you want to be
exactly.
you want to be in a GTP. You want to win a
Yep.
GTP. Okay.
100%. Which it's really difficult, but I think if we put in the work and we keep showing up the way we have, I think it's not out of the question.
Sure.
But with Jackson and I, we work so close together. One of the mantras that he's instilled in me is, if we're gonna do this, you're gonna make the world a better place than the way you found it.
Sure.
So every time you leave somewhere, you're gonna leave it better. And if I can help people along in their pathways and give some people some advice and lend a hand, then that's honestly more valuable than anything else, right? So if I lost my ride today, I would go get a job as an engineer and work with our program and help these kids who are coming through and following in my footsteps to go further than I have. And that's something that is really near and dear to my heart, is helping everybody else get to the dreams that they want to accomplish. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of sappy, but that's something that I love. And especially I realized this when I started coaching, is that the kids at the racetrack, whenever they won, I felt like I won, and I almost felt happier than when I win my own races.
Right.
So giving other people the opportunity to have that kind of joy is just incredible, because you can win a soccer game, and I'm probably a little bit biased for this, but you can win a soccer game, you can win a football game, you can win at track and field, but there's something different about racing that is sheer joy whenever you do well with it.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got your grandmother in the chat here. Your first time at the kart track, you were one month, Morgan, by the way. You were 1 month old, man. And Sheila, I've got a question for you, by the way. He had to have earphones or earplugs or something, right? And Sheila, what track was he at?
All Sports Grand Prix. I loved that place.
You knew it. You know it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. That's where I started racing. I started racing under Francois Durette, who unfortunately passed away 4 years ago. But he was a 1980s Le Mans driver. He raced at Le Mans 4 or 5 times, came over to the U.S., opened his go-kart track, and my family and I were longtime regulars there. I grew up with him in his office, kind of spending time with him. He was actually my first sponsor when I was 6 or 7 years old, something like that. And I raced there for a few years, and that place was cool because it was an indoor track in an industrial park, so it was on sealed concrete. So there was no grip at all.
Yeah, slick.
So slick, and it was incredible. My parents, all of our family friends, the Eptings, the Amy's, the Ginsbergs, we would all get together. And when I was 8, we had "Are You Faster Than an 8-Year-Old" Smackdown. The short answer was no.
No, yeah.
So that
awesome.
place was incredible.
Hang on,
awesome.
I've got a few more chats. 1 second here. I believe somebody said your mom was pregnant. So you were not even born yet. You were on the racetrack for the first time. Sarah, we got to get you out to the racetrack right now. But
You might be a little late
my
for that.
first time in a race car was, my mom was very pregnant.
Yeah.
I think like 6 or 7 months pregnant, and it was my dad.
You still have time, Sarah.
And my dad had won a race, and she wasn't letting anybody stop her, and she got in the car and we did a victory lap. And that was my first time on a racetrack.
I was going to say they letting her race at that point, but
no. And they fought her to get in the car to go to the victory lap, but she was not having it.
Good on her. No.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
unbelievable, man. Like I got no more questions. That's it for me. Jason, you got anything?
I think we covered everything. I guess just shouting out the in sim accomplishments. The 2024 iRacing runoffs, virtual V runoffs. In the SRF race, certain Morgan Burkhard won that by I think it was 9 thousandths of a second.
Yeah,
something like
it was
that.
like a 3 wide or 4 wide finish.
Yep.
So yeah, on the track in the sim, just dust everywhere.
All right, one more question, Morgan.
I believe you started that race way in the back too, or like further in the back.
25th, 26th, something like that.
Okay, I didn't think it was that far back. That's a little angry about that, but it's fine.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, no, fantastic job.
One more question, Morgan. You're not going to forget us, all right? When you make it big time, because you're going to make it big time, man. Don't forget about us. Don't forget about Stevie. You can forget about me. I just met you tonight. It's fine. Do not forget about Stevie Ray over there.
No, when I'll tell you that when I met him face to face with his parents at VIR, come up and of course knew who he was, and we shook hands, all that. They made me feel like the damn celebrity, and it was Morgan that put the car on the pole. So yeah, it was awesome to get to meet you guys.
Well, Stevie, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think this is going to be my 5 minutes now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Stevie, you are a celebrity. You're a celebrity for all of the Weekend Warriors, man. You're a celebrity for the Wednesday night leagues you guys do. Your actual the real life league racers that come into that, man. And I want you to know, Stevie, I know I can't see you right now, but I need you to know how important you are to me and my wife, Sarah. We came in not knowing each other, obviously, through Slow Motion Broadcasting. You were looking for a new broadcaster for your Weekend Warriors League. You found one through me. So, Stevie, I want to thank you first and foremost for everything that you have done for Slow Motion Broadcasting and for me and my wife, Sarah. Just being there, asking questions. Stevie, you are the hero. Like, we've got 3 people in here. Stevie, you mean more to, I think, anybody in this chat, anybody in the Weekend Warriors than you know. I need you to understand that, Stevie. So that's number 1.
100%.
Yeah. Number 2, guys, I want to say something, and Morgan, I'm going to get a little bit teary-eyed here, I think.
You already did that to me.
Yeah. My final production and commentary on Slow Motion Broadcasting will be tomorrow night. My wife is 3 months out. Slow Motion Broadcasting is in great hands with Joshua Wilkie. Great hands. I can see Slow Motion Broadcasting going nowhere but up from here. Sorry, Morgan, you're kind of in on this, but you've been the center of attention here this whole time. So let me take center stage for half a second.
I got you.
But yeah, so please tune in to the SRG race. Obviously, Ray Esports will be running as well tomorrow night. Tune in to the end of that SRG race. Give everybody some love there for SRG. They deserve it. That F4 league is absolutely amazing. So it's going to be me, Mike Braun, and Daniel Hall on the call, and it will be my last time, I hope, that you hear from me through Slow Motion Broadcasting. I'll be backing out of that admin role tomorrow night. And that's going to be it for me from Slow Motion Broadcasting. Joshua Wilkie, you have done such a great job with Slow Motion Broadcasting. Stevie, again, when I say this, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Joshua Wilkie would not have this chance, man, without you, and I need you to understand that, Stevie. So thank you guys so much for giving me a way out of Slow Motion Broadcasting and giving me the chance to finally start moving on from SMB. And yeah, guys, thank you so much. Please tune in to that race tomorrow night.
Thanks, Adam.
100%.
Awesome.
And wow, hard to talk. Morgan, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here, sharing your background, your life with us, letting these people that watch our podcast get to know you. You got a bunch of fans there. They're going to be following you a lot closer now. They know who you are. So we'll be following you. And if there's anything that we do to carry on, we're doing it. So again, thank you for all your support from the leagues and all you've done in the past for us as well.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Stevie, we go way back, and I don't think I'd be where I am today without coming through the gates of your league. So much appreciated for everything that you've done for sim racing as a whole. There's so many people that you've touched with the Weekend Warriors leagues, the Ray Esports leagues, and can't really go anywhere without hearing about it, which is really, really cool. And for anybody out there that finds yourself in an IMSA race, please come and find me. I would love to talk to you guys and give you a tour of the car, because I like showing off Porsches.
You're going to have a baby girl coming at you here real quick, Morgan, so you better be ready to put her in the car. 3 months? Can you take her on you take her on a lap at 3 months old?
Oh, God. We can see what we can do.
All right.
Yeah, all right, we've gone way over time. This is the longest podcast we've ever done.
Yes.
And it was well worth it, though.
Yep.
And again, I can't thank you, Morgan. And tell your parents hi for us. And with that, I think we'll have to call that on a wrap. So that's it.
We're out. Bye, guys.
We're out.
See you next week.
Appreciate your time, Frank. This gentleman has done wonders for sim racing, the real world racers that come into sim racing or go back and forth. Frank's responsible to get some guys out on track. So without further ado, Mr. Frank Swartz, Grass Paddock Motorsports, tell us what you do. What do we call this thing? The Raycing Line. I'm all out of sync. We got more people to deal with this week than what I'm used to. So thanks to my co-host Jason for joining us. Adam's back this week, and as you can see, we got a fourth sitting here. Megan Oversheet is already joining us to help us do some reviews and stuff. So thank you, Megan.
Let's go, Megan.
And help us. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, we're just getting ready to review the spec racers, and since we had an announcer in the waiting room, we thought we'd go ahead and bring you in.
Well, thank you very much.
There he is.
Hey, we got him.
Hey, Jason, we got you this time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
We won't talk about the other thing.
Our special guest for the evening, Mr. Dave Ogburn, and for Dave to introduce you to these two knuckleheads, you got. Great to see you, Thor. Welcome to the fourth chair and the podcast this week.
No, thank you so much for having me. It feels surreal, like finally being able to talk to you guys. I've been in this league for 2-3 years, and finally face to face.
Oh.
Yes, our first guest.
Jeff.
You're on the spot now, Jeff. Oh. So, welcome, Mr. Jeff Jacobson. Again. Great to have you here. Thanks for taking some time out to join us. We get to some fun part. That's why you're here, Jerry. This is our guest segment after the reviews. So thanks for sitting through with us. And
that was fun.
And
thanks.
Yeah, it's some good racing. So, well, first of all, we gotta say thank you to Trenton for taking time to come join us. He's one of the hardest working guys I know, and you can look there in the shop behind him and get an idea of what he does. So as everybody sees, we've got Darren Ganji, and if you didn't know already, he is Mr. Sim Motion, where you can get all your sim rigs and equipment and everything. He's also the sponsor of that league we were just talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Sean Ambrose, we go back forever, back to the very early beginning days of the Weekend Warriors when it was broadcasted on another broadcast, GSRC, I don't mind saying it. Very good to us. And Sean was one of the producers, announcers, always great to talk with.
So, Mr. Edgar Sancinelli, Weekend Warrior, Frito Sport Racing. I don't know what all you do, but great to have you join us tonight, Edgar.
Yes.
I'm not saying shit. Oh, yeah, no, literally. Whatever,
Yep,
I give up.
there you go.
I know you've had a mute for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
just for the views when Adam and you were there. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
jeez.
Oh yeah.